What's going on, everybody? This is Tommy Vext, and you're watching Gym Rock Crew.
Tommy Vext, welcome to Gym Rock Crew. So freaking excited to have you here.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
So I saw pictures of you with, let's see, Chris Cale, with Lena Scissorhands, and even with Alex Terrible. I've had them all here in interviews.
Yeah. I know Chris a long time. I love Chris. And then I ran into Alex at Gold's Gym, the Mecca, which is my gym in Venice, where like Arnold Schwarzenegger built his career. And I was like, I'm like, are you Alex? He's like, bro, I know you. And he's like, oh, you're Tommy from Bad Wolves. I was like, well, not anymore. He's like, they were playing I think they were doing Warp Tour or something, and they'd never been to the gym, so like the whole band came to like see Golds. So it was cool. They're super sweet. He gave me a spot. I did what did I do? He gave me a spot on the bench press. And then we FaceTime
Ooh.
Zoltan from Five Finger Death Punch together. I was like, look what I ran into, like, But I feel like in the music industry or like in metal and rock, the people who work, like everyone who works out, we kind of knows each other because we're in a healthy lifestyle, So it's
Yeah,
cool. It's a
I'm
small
seeing that a
world.
lot. Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot because, like, if I have someone new that I follow on Instagram, I see the connections there with a lot of the artists like I've already interviewed. It's very cool that it's moving in that direction, like with health and fitness and gym talk and stuff. So it's very cool.
Yeah, people want to live
Yeah,
longer. People want to look better
yeah,
and live longer and be healthier.
and I want to help them live longer,
I
right?
like that.
So do you listen to anything when you exercise, train?
Do I? Yeah.
What do you listen
What have
to?
I been listening to lately on my playlist is like After the Burial, Applauding You. I really like this band from Connecticut called Boundaries. They're like a hardcore band, but the lyrics are amazing, the breakdowns are incredible. I really like Landmarks. Um
I'm gonna take notes.
oh, you're writing all this down.
Yeah.
That's just what I've been. Landmarks is kind of blowing up though. They've been doing really well. I think they did their first headlining U.S. tour. I missed the show because I was in the studio. Um, but I think they're Swiss and French, but don't quote me on that. I don't. I just some found one of their songs and I just got the whole catalog. Like I went in and just. I still buy stuff on iTunes because that's really how the artists make money. So I just bought everything. I was like, oh yeah. And Landmarks is kind of like they're younger guys, and I feel like they take elements of Lamb of God, Slipknot, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, and sort of tie it all together. I
Wow.
even hear like He Is Legend. Like sometimes the riffs, even though they're not an American band, they'll pull out some like southern rock guitar riffs in the middle of these metal albums, and half of it's in French and half of it's in English, and the singer does like a rapping thing and he screams and he sings. So I like when the vocalists are super dynamic. So plug to Landmarks, people are like, oh, write that down.
Yeah, I've written that down. So cool. Well, there's a lot of cool bands, and you'd recommend that for with lifting.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. And then there's like all the classics, like the stuff that everybody knows. Like
Nice, nice.
everybody lifts weights to. I feel like Pantera, Slipknot, Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth,
Lamb of
Hatebreed,
God.
Kill Switch Engage, Lamb of God, Five Finger, All That Remains, Shadows Fall.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Like the old Machine Head records are still in my rotation. Biohazard did a reunion. So I grew up in Brooklyn, so they were like legends, and I know those guys since I'm 16, and then I started listening to old Biohazard records in the gym. I'm like, Tales from the Hard Side. So it's cool, yeah. I
Nice,
gotta just
nice.
switch up my playlist, right? It's my workouts are usually is all metal and rock and grunge, but depending on like the day, I'll go to nostalgic music from like the 90s or
I
back
love
in
the
the day.
90s. Yeah,
Yeah.
best
And
era.
then when I'm doing like I think when it's intent like leg day or deadlifting and all that, it's got to be fast, heavy, and it's got to be new because it's got to Legs are very monotonous. They're very necessary, but it feels like you're just like it's the same slow movements and like making sure you have the proper form and technique. So it's really helpful to listen to be stimulated with something that's new, so that it doesn't feel like the workout is boring.
Yeah,
And
got
it's
it.
also and painful. If you train legs and your legs don't hurt, you're not training legs. So yeah.
Kind of takes me to my next question though. Did you have like a favorite exercise? Something that you really enjoy?
Um, I mean, each body part is different, right? I have like like I have favorite machines, like all over. I've worked out all over the world. I always worked out on tour. I think in Gold's Gym in Venice, there's a quad raise machine, the quad extension that is it only exists there. It was actually built in that building, and it doesn't exist anywhere else. And it's like everyone's done quad extensions that work out, but it for some reason this machine is like I don't know how they built it, but when you get a full extension, the pump is incredible, and it just looks good. You're like, yeah, you're like, oh, big legs. I don't know.
You chose
This
legs as your favorite.
Well, that's not a hard workout. That's a warm up.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, you know, it's like I don't know. It just depends. Like, there are these trap machines at Dragon's Lair in Las Vegas. So when I lived in Las Vegas, or whenever I'm in Las Vegas, I work out at the Dragon's Lair, which is Flex Lewis, the Olympian. It's his gym. He's a good friend of mine, and they have basically Arsenal gear through the whole place. So they have tons and tons of great stuff. Arsenal makes really awesome stuff. But they have these shoulder raises that are in the. I don't know how to explain it. They're like, I don't know the name of the actual machine, but it's great because for me, like I have a torn, like I tore my elbow and fractured my forearm when during there's a song called "Remember When" on the Bad Wolves' first record about I got I was killed in a home invasion, um, and then during that process I had like my skull fractured and I had my forearm shattered and my so I don't have this full range of motion in both my arms. So sometimes certain workouts like bench press or pressing motions or even lateral raises and things, they put a lot of tension, and so this machine makes it so I can go heavy in weight, but it doesn't actually negatively affect my sort of joint impediment, right?
yeah,
So it makes me feel like it's like I'll forever for the rest of my life have to work out with a handicap because of the injury, but you just kind of push through it. And so I like finding stuff that makes it easier for me rather than just I'm also you get older and you're like I don't want to just push through the pain all the time. I want it to be more functional.
yeah, yeah. I think we're kind of the same age. You're born in '82, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm '81. We're close.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
You look good, girl. I was like, okay,
it's all the weights. It's all the weights.
that's what it is. Yeah, we're turning back time over here.
Oh yeah, totally. So you have that whole everything that went on that there was a while ago, and it's still continuing to impact you, and you
Yeah, I
don't.
mean the physical, like the damage that was done to the joint and everything is permanent. But I still make do with it. I could have I think the point of having surgery where it would have healed fine, we're past the point. And now if I did have surgery to try to, I went to an orthopedic surgeon and they took a look at it and they were like, you're going to be out of the gym for like 9 to 12 months. And I was like, can't do that. And, this was also while I was touring when we were doing like 200 shows a year. So
Wow.
I don't know if people remember. I had re-torn my elbow on tour with Five Finger Death Punch in 2019, and I had to wear a cast for the rest of the tour.
Shit.
And it's because like a normal extension is a hyper extension for this arm. So it
Mm.
almost if this arm is forced to be straight, it snaps. So I accidentally like got my arm stuck in a hoodie, and I was rushing to get on stage, and I pulled it off, and it yanked my arm and hyperextended it, and it popped. And then I had to
Shit.
play the show in agonizing pain, and then go to the hospital and get all this work done, and then so I'm just
Fuck.
not. Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid surgery. So now I take peptides and stuff now. So all the BPC and the TB 500 and BPC. What is
Super
it?
helpful. Yeah.
157 or 147, which helps to repair tissue damage.
Yeah. That's good. Well, you're getting better. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Is that an exercise that you don't enjoy, that you don't like?
cardio. I don't think anybody really likes cardio. It's necessary. Like I just started like about like I didn't. I'm trying to think. I didn't run or sprint for almost like 9 months, and I didn't have shows. I didn't have to go on tour. But I'm a big dude. Like when I'm like fully training and eating and everything, and like I can stand around 270 pounds, right? And so that's not functional for on stage. So I have to, for me to be comfortable on stage, I have to be about 255 pounds so I can move comfortably. And so whenever touring season is coming up, I start sprinting. So I'm pretty fast. Like I used to do long distance running because I was fat, and I started running in my early 20s. I was originally 340 pounds, but I was just fat. I didn't work out or anything, and I went to like I was just depressed, and then my aunt obesity runs in my family, and my aunt died at 52 years old of morbid obesity, and so it kind of it scared me and my mom, and then my mom started walking, and this is 20 years ago, and so my mom lost like 120 pounds, and she's never gone back up again, and now
Wow.
my mom walks so much still that when I go on vacations with her, I took her to Denmark or whenever she outwalks me. I'm like, Mom, I can't. She'll walk for 5 hours, and I'm like, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go back to the hotel and take a nap. Like, here's my credit card. Go shopping. She's like, okay. I'm like, you know, but yeah, when I have to get ready for tour, I have to sprint, and so I usually have to get on again because I'm heavy too. I need to run on the gridded treadmills because the ones with the belts, I'll stop them. It's not they're not built for being so big, and so I'll do intervals like I'll walk from 3.5 on a 9% incline, and then drop down, and then I'll run, and then my first sprint after 5 minutes will be, I'll do 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 7 miles an hour, then walk back down for 30 seconds, then, and I basically build up to like a minute of straight sprinting. But once I'm comfortable and like I'm warmed up, I can sprint like 9.5 miles an hour for at least 45 to a minute and a half, which is
Wow.
kind of crazy because like when I don't think about it like that, but my friend filmed me doing it, and I was like, you that's fast, and I'm just hauling ass, and people are like, "Yeah," and it's like,
You sped it up.
yeah, because I'm so heavy, so it's like when you see somebody that big running that fast, and the treadmill's just like, the whole thing's shaking, you're like, ah. But I hate cardio. Like it's exhausting, and it's super boring. And but what I do is I make playlists of the set. So whatever set list that I'm going to perform, that's what I run to. So
Hmm.
I literally use cardio as a time to train my cardiovascular system and my breathing technique so that when we're on stage, like I don't get out of breath. I also will breathe. Literally whisper all the songs, the lyrics and everything, and where the notes get held while I'm doing cardio, so that my body already starts to get the memory, the body mechanics, so that I don't ever like make mistakes or get out of breath or get winded.
That's so cool. I think I saw Miley Cyrus doing that, running on a treadmill and kind of belting out the entire set or
I
something.
think the only other person I ever saw doing that was Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
But
there's a video of.
Miley Cyrus might do it. Yeah, I'm sure I didn't invent this. It just seemed to me like like a smart thing to do, and so
Yeah,
that started. It started like in 2008 when I was auditioning for a band called Snot. That's how I did my auditions. Like before I went to the auditions, I would drink an energy drink and go to the treadmill in my apartment complex, and I would listen to the whole record and I would just run. And so and then like I have lunch and then go to rehearsal and they're like, yo, this guy's like the energy was like, I'm like, oh, I'm tweaking out caffeine right now, you know? They're like, dude. And that's the thing too, like Metallica plays like an hour before they go on stage. They play like 2 hours a day. Right. I didn't know that. And then I was backstage at a Metallica show about 15 years ago and they have a room, they have their own jam room. And they go in there and they jam. And so when you got like when everybody in the arena is like Metallica, dude, these guys have already been playing all like for an hour.
wow.
Yeah, so I always thought that was like I always looked at them as they're sort of like approach performance like athletes or like Olympians. And
A
so I
lot
was
of
like,
the big bands, Megadeth as well, they're very into like fitness and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
I toured with
because
those guys too. They're fun.
yeah, I had a vocal coach, also vocalist here, and she jumps rope while singing her set, so that was cool
Oh,
as
really?
well. Yeah, yeah,
Gotta write that down.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, that's because it has to help your diaphragm control, right?
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Mm.
Actually, that was one of my questions to you. So it was like, how you get your notes out and you sing with such power on stage when you're just going fucking crazy. So now I know.
Uh, yeah, it's the stop start, right? So there's a thing that Melissa Cross has been my vocal coach for like 22 years now.
She's awesome. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so she talks about stand and deliver, and when you have to land on certain notes, I'm sure she teaches everyone differently, but the way that she trained me with audiation was like to imagine the notes as a hoop and I'm shooting a basketball and I have to drop the ball in the net without touching any of the rim. And so and also in your mind when you think about shooting a basketball, it's going over your head and also the notes are also coming from above the pencil. And so that whenever you have to hit a free throw or like if you're in the middle of a game and you got to stop to shoot the ball, you have to stop. So all the chaos, like I'm like, oh, I'm going crazy, and then when you go to sing, you have to literally your whole brain has to shift and then aim and hit it. I don't know. It's I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly.
Yeah. No, it makes
I get
sense.
it. Yeah, I get it. But that's like the you know that's when you're ready and you're practice and you're on point. It takes a lot of practice to get there, which is why there's a lot like before touring there should be a lot of preliminary rehearsal, right? Because when like when you go play your first show after not touring for a while or the band's been on vacation or you're in between doing a record, you don't want to be a bunch of schlubs. Like some bands can do it. They just come out like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, it wasn't that great. It was like, well, it's the
Yeah.
first show. It's like, didn't they rehearse? So like,
What?
nah, and some people are that talented, I guess, too. Maybe they just don't have to try. But me, like, it's not, I get anxiety if I'm not prepared. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
gotta get ready. Yeah,
No, it's very cool. Thanks for sharing all that.
sure. Just interesting questions. I don't get to talk about nerdy things very often.
You're welcome. Right. So, tell us what your current health and fitness routine looks like.
Um, well, again, right now I'm in a weight loss phase, so I'm trying to cut weight, which means my lifting has changed pretty dramatically. My regiments are usually uh well, out of season I do 3 leg days a week. And then I'll do, so say, just let's say Monday, I'll do a front loaded, which is like predominantly quads and squatting and stuff. And then then Thursday, I'll do glutes and hamstrings. And then that Saturday I'll hit my abductors and my calves and like sort of the ancillary ones in a mix up with other workouts. Uh so that's like that's when I'm off season trying to grow. And then obviously, some then you do back and buys, chest and tries, shoulders, and that's like the that's the lifting phase. And then also the reps are only up to 10 to 12. So 4 reps at 10, 4 reps at 12, whatever. I don't really exceed that. When I'm losing weight, I'm lifting significantly less. I'm probably lifting about 70% of what I can lift, and we're doing high volume. So it could be 4 sets of 20, depending on the workout. Sometimes it's 4 sets of 30, right? And so, you're basically interchanging, you're exchanging elements of cardio with the lift so that you're not just doing cardio and burning all your muscle. You're still breaking and building the muscle, but you're also conditioning the muscle to last longer. What this requires though is a lot more electrolytes too, because you're constantly getting dehydrated because you're doing such high volume work.
Yeah.
And then because like my chest and back just genetically are larger, so when I'm trying to lose weight, I'll do a push pull. So chest and back day will be the same day, and then I'll do like two of those separately. So it'll be like, I'm trying to think. I don't have all this written down. I didn't know we were going to get into these questions. But I've had trainers like Justin Lovato was my personal trainer for years, and then Justin Dees in Vegas was my trainer. So there's doing functional training. There's bodybuilding and lifting and building strength and powerlifting, and then there's for our job, I have to have more functional strength, and
Yeah.
I also have to create stability and longevity. Where it's cool to be like, yeah, I'm huge, but not if you're winded after 2 songs. So so then sprinting also comes in. So like it'll be two days a week. Well, actually, will just be for cardio separately, and there'll be 20 or 30 minutes of incline walking before my workout even
Mm,
starts. Another 2 days of the week, so I'm getting like 4 days of cardio, and yeah, and that's it. It's just like doing higher volume and watching my caloric intake. So it's weird. I have like I feel I don't know if other people experience this. Physically and energetically, I feel better, lighter, but psychologically, I like being a mutant, And I have like reverse bulimia where I think I'm small, and all of my friends are professional athletes. Like, so I'm like comparing myself. When I lived in Vegas, I work out with Nick Walker or like Regan Grimes, or Flex Lewis, and I'm trash compared to these people because I'm just a musician who is into fitness. These are like the apex athletes of the globe, and so it can mess with you being around these people. But they're so like the bodybuilding community is everyone's. It's such a strong community, and people are so kind, and nobody ever makes you feel like you don't belong there. And even those guys at the people who are in the physical peak, the pinnacle of everything, the highest of the high, they all have these same thoughts and feelings,
yeah.
and I think
So
and
that's
I've noticed that too, even in music, right? I know a lot of people, obviously, who are famous musicians, and a lot of people have imposter syndrome, right? Like we feel like, people are like, what's it like being a rock star? You're like, oh, I'm just a guy, because it's uncomfortable because it takes so much time just to get there that you almost don't recognize the results of the fruits of your labor when you're there. You're
Yeah.
just so conditioned to keep working hard, which I think is a good thing. But sometimes it's good to take, inventory of the positives, not just the negatives.
Yeah, I love that. I actually had a drummer, Eric Moratti. I don't know if you know him, Suffocation drummer,
Oh
also
yeah, yeah.
bodybuilding and stuff. And he was talking about, he's also in the band Goliath. The
Oh yeah, yeah. With Craig,
Yeah, 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 exactly. And he was
the
talking
the
about
biggest the biggest front man on the face of the earth.
he was talking about, well, two things that you brought up. One was there is such a thing as, now they call it bigorexia, where you're like you don't feel like you're big enough, which
Yeah,
is what you said. And then the other thing was the cardio capacity. He feels the difference when he's put on more muscle as compared to when he was lighter. So it's just the cardio capacity changes. So interesting.
yeah. I mean, muscle weighs a lot more than fat, and it's like it's a sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice cardiovascular ability if you want to be 30, 40 pounds of muscle heavier. It's just that's how it works. Your body has to work harder to pump that oxygen to that much more muscle. So it's a trade-off, like I don't know, I never really, I guess people, you know, I feel like body dysmorphia is an interesting subject because traditionally I I feel like it was something that women felt like they were held up to these impossible standards of Barbie and Victoria's Secret and this, that, the other. And, men really never talked about it, but, we were supposed to look like He Man. And, when I was a kid, I liked Rocky and Predator and, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers and Sylvester
Yeah.
Stallone. Like these were the guys who were like, this is being a man, so we have that too. And, sometimes it's just interesting because I always say this too, like guys join the gym and get huge, and the only people who care are other dudes. Are like, yeah, bro, like
Yeah,
women don't even
exactly.
care. Yeah, they don't even care. They're like, whatever, dude. Like, it's literally in our heads.
It's like these memes of like what I think versus what is the reality of it. So yeah, it's hilarious. He was also talking about like his drums. He had to change it around because like his mobility changed as well with more muscle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, very
that
interesting.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, because well, also suffocation. That stuff is so fast.
yeah,
It's so
it's
fast. I
crazy.
remember seeing them in 2006 at the Key Club, and Derek Boyer is best friends with Tim Young, and I played with Tim and Divine Heresy, and he was like, "We're gonna go see Suffo," and so everyone calls him Suffo. And I'm
Yeah,
like, "I don't know what that is." I'm like, "Suffocation." I'm like, "Oh, you guys know that band?" And they came out on stage, and it's just like,
yeah.
holy shit, oh, it's like, bro, it's the most brutal thing I've ever seen.
They're cool.
Hobbs and those guys are cool. Yeah, it's a great band.
Yeah, yeah. So you've touched a little bit about your like on your fitness, your health and fitness journey, and that why you decided to take it seriously and stuff. Was there any particular struggles that you had that you really remember that were very difficult for you?
I mean, I think, well, I'm almost 17 years sober, but I talk about food and sugar being my first addiction, right? I was addicted to sugar before I ever, experimented with drugs or alcohol ever. And so, even when I was a kid, I look back at some of my behavior and I would, I would, when I was little, when I was in middle school, at at the grocery store, you could get Swedish fish and they were 1 penny, and they used to have a big box of them. And so I would I would every day, like sometimes I would take my lunch money and I would not get lunch so I could eat 100 Swedish fish. You know what I mean? And then I would get a Crystal Pepsi, and I was kind of introverted. I liked comic books. I was a nerd, and I didn't, and I was fat, and I was just like the fat kid, and I hung out with other fat kids. They used to call us the F clique, because we were all fat and we all got picked on, and then we were
Oh,
like, we're stronger together, you know.
oh,
And so yeah, and then
bonded through trauma.
yeah, and then eventually, you get a gym membership, or you get tired of being rejected by girls, and I started. I didn't understand the dieting aspect too because I grew up very poor. My parents were not educated on any of this because they grew up in a time where McDonald's was real food. So we would have, and my mom cooked food, but it was a lot of heavy oils, and we would eat McDonald's, or we would get microwave dinners from Costco because my dad was a janitor. That's what we could afford, and we didn't. Nobody put it. You couldn't put two and two together. You don't really know, and so there was no education in our family around food being healthy, and so I didn't. I was still not eating well, but what I started doing was I started playing basketball,
Mm,
and and one summer I just didn't want to be fat anymore, and so I actually got on. I think it was hydroxycut, right? I was like 17 or 18, and I saved up and went to GNC, and I got my like hydroxycut. It's a diet pill, and I it was like on MTV. I was like, oh, okay, and and then I would just go, and I played basketball all summer, and I just kept losing weight and losing weight, and then I joined a gym, and then I met guys in the gym, and when you go in there as a teenager, you have no idea what you're doing, and I think when I joined the gym, it was like, I don't know, like $19 a month, and I was like, how am I going to afford this,
wow.
like, and and I worked at a pet store and a grocery shop, so it just changed. Like I just started doing, it became part of my social life, and then I had a couple instances where when I was older, where like the bullies in junior high school who picked on me, like we got into bar fights, and you know I beat the bricks off of them, and that felt really good. You know what I mean? I feel like every man who gets punked in school should have one chance to fight the
Yeah.
bully. I've been training for this for years, bro. Like, I remember you, fuck you. I was like, cool, outside right now, So yeah, I don't know.
Got your moment.
Yeah,
Awesome.
not violence is bad though, unless it's against the Epstein list. Like, it's like, don't beat up your high school bully.
Man, so how did you? I'm very interested to know how you learned about food then and making those changes in your diet.
I mean, that stuff came over time, right? I'm all. I think I got sober in 2009, and I was super unhealthy. I was very thin because I was a drug addict, and I had become so addicted to cocaine and methamphetamine, and I was drinking every day, and so I was like gray. I wasn't, and then when I got sober, um, and I removed all the drugs and alcohol, I started getting my sweet tooth back again. And so a lot of people who get clean or quit drinking, there's a lot of sugar and alcohol. And so part of your cravings, you'll switch. And so then I started eating pints of ice cream, and then I got fat. And so I think I probably should have gained 10 pounds, and I gained like 35 pounds, right? So it was like in a month. And
What? Crazy.
yeah, and then I was like, oh, I'm fat. Like, oh no, not again. So then I joined the gym, and it was over time learning about the ingredients in food, and
Hmm.
you know people weren't talking about like diglycerides and seed oils and things. Like now everyone, it's like the population, I think, understands that what's the fillers and the things that are being put in food are terrible for us, and there's a lot of carcinogens and over processed stuff, and you know the reality is that they're putting preservatives into products, especially in America. This the they want the something for some reason the corporations like we they want to maximize shelf life. They want to still be able to sell food that's been sitting out for God knows how long. And
Yeah.
I had a buddy who was like, dude, I think it was that Fed Up movie, and we got McDonald's and left it on the sidewalk for like a week, and it was the same.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm never, and I never ate, I probably have not had McDonald's. I've had McDonald's one time in 20 years, and I got sick from it. And yeah, I was like, oh, I'll try. I'm like, it's been a long time, and I was in England too, so I was like, maybe it's not trash. And I
Yeah.
was like, ugh, like had a few chicken nuggets. I was like, bleh, can't do it. America's kind of crazy. It's like we went through this period where people were trying to uh, normalize obesity, and the way that I look at it, I look at obesity like addiction, and it's something that affected my family, and it's something that's taken my loved ones from me, and so the body positivity movement, where like I think that it's we should be accepting, we should be kind to people, and we should you know encourage them to be healthy, but we should treat food addiction like an addiction. And it's like you know there's healthy shame, and then there's toxic shame, and toxic shame is abusing people or self-abuse, and beating yourself up, and creating like sort of a despair and a hopelessness around the situation. And then there's healthy shame, where you acknowledge like I no longer want to live like this, and I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's the healthy shame, the healthy shame motivates you to make decisions that are better for you and your family. And so I watched sort of body positivity as a movement. And I used to date Hunter McGrady, met years and years ago, and she was like the chick who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated a couple years ago. And when we dated, she had gone from being very, very skinny and sick as a model to just healthy. But then the industry sort of, I feel like it pushed those girls to become morbidly obese, and then all of a sudden, all these girls in that industry started getting super super unhealthy and obese, and then everyone was like, no, this is beautiful and this is that, and it's like, look, everybody can be beautiful, but at what expense? Like, you're shortening people's lives.
Yeah.
Several
It's not healthy.
obese influencers died over the last 3 years, and they're in their 30s and 40s. Like, you're stealing these people's future from them. And to me, I look at reinforcing and affirming addictive behavior when it comes to eating is as bad as if you went and told an alcoholic, like, oh, you can drink. If you went into rehabs and like, you could smoke
Yeah.
crack like a gentleman, you know. And I don't think it's kind. I think it wears the face of kindness and tolerance and acceptance, but I think it's a much more nefarious undertone, where we're, as a society, when we're not, it. If I love someone, I have to hold a mirror up to them, and I don't want to, and I've buried a lot of people, and I've sponsored, in sobriety, probably 100 people, many of which didn't make it and are not alive anymore. And I've been to a lot of funerals, um, and I know a lot of people who are very, very big who aren't with us anymore either, because they didn't make the change. And there needs to be more of a discussion from, I'm somebody who was legally morbidly obese. I was in that category. Um, and I don't think it's like people shouldn't, if you're wherever you are, right, that's where you have to meet yourself. And every day is one step and one journey. And some of the most inspiring people I know and have met have overcome obesity. And I personally think food addiction is the hardest addiction, because with alcohol and drugs, if you abstain from it and things start getting better,
Yeah.
you cannot, if you just never eat again, you die. So you can't. so this is the only addiction that you have to continue to participate in, but you have to actually manage it to a healthy point. And
Constantly.
yeah, and I don't know, it just hurts my heart coming from a family of big people, and you know, watching people struggle with it and then be lied to, because there's
Mm,
another way.
yeah, that's very interesting. I really like the parallel because I never really thought of that. But yeah, it makes sense. It's probably even more of a danger than drugs and alcohol. Like your liver regenerates if you just stop
Mm.
drinking. So yeah, very interesting. I used to
Yeah.
model. You were talking about that, and like back in when I was a teenager and stuff. And I remember I got so skinny because they kept pushing. You need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. And I got really skinny to a point where I would still look in the mirror and think I was fat. And my brothers were like, "You're walking like a spider because like you're only bones." But I didn't see that, So it's just like it's the industry.
Yeah, I think a lot of the entertainment modeling, music industry, there's this thing about if they can convince you that you're not good enough all the time, no matter how much success you have, they'll always have control over you.
Yeah,
And it's a very predatory industry because the people who run the industry don't have any talent, and there's nothing special about them. What they do is they're able to create monetary networks, but the network doesn't work without a product. So they turn human beings into products, and then they process everybody to try to fit everyone into the same thing. And like that's
yeah,
just not how, like I believe in God, and I don't believe that God makes mistakes, and I don't believe that if every single person was a homogenized copy, it would be a very boring world to live in.
yeah. So I don't know if you actually went through what made you quit the alcohol and the drugs. What was that turning point?
Uh, the death of my unborn son. My ex was pregnant with our son, and she had a late term miscarriage due to a relapse, that caused health complications. And I was when I found out that we were pregnant, I just stopped drinking and everything because I just thought I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a dad, like the party's over. And then that wound up happening, and a few days later I relapsed. And then um I mean, I during the process of this hitting rock bottom, I sort of, in my mind, I was like, this was like the worst thing that could happen to me, and now fuck everything. But as a man and looking back, I know that I used the death of my son as an excuse to use drugs and drink. And I wanted to check out, and I didn't want to be here anymore. And instead of getting it together and having that, and I had a healthy shame moment where like I overdosed, and um, that wasn't enough, and then I got alcohol poisoning, and then I finally just, I woke up on the floor of my friend's bathroom, and I was, that I can't do this anymore. You know, for probably almost 2 years of my life, I didn't wake up. I came to. I'd pass out in a blackout, and then I wouldn't know what happened, and just. And then, the thing is that a lot of people may not know is that no matter what you've been through, no matter what trauma you've gone through, you can't escape it. And so you can, you know, it didn't matter how long I went, but because I didn't deal with those issues, that eventually I had to.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we run away from our stuff, and it's like we're speeding down the freeway in a pickup truck, and we keep, shit happens, and we throw the garbage in the back, and we just like, oh, and you throw it in the back, and you keep throwing the trash in the back. And then all of a sudden there's a traffic jam, and you hit the brakes, and all the shit in the back of the pickup truck comes in the front. And then now you have to sit, and you have to literally go through all this baggage and all this garbage, and you have to sift through it and decide you have to do like a spiritual inventory and be like, this stuff isn't worth holding on to anymore. And, you know, that if I didn't get sober, I wouldn't have really learned about the underlying reasons why I compulsively ate. It's all tied to the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So that's been quite a journey then. Just relearning, and you've had so many obstacles, and you've just had to learn like separate learnings from each of those.
Yeah, well, that's life.
Freaking awesome.
They say that pain is the touchstone of spiritual growth. So
Um,
I'm pretty tired of growing though. I like being happy now.
it's like I read somewhere, I keep asking the universe for money, and it keeps giving me lessons.
Yeah, you don't ask the universe for money. I don't think the monetary. Well, the thing is that I have came to understand. So I had a near death experience in 2010, and I was dead for a couple minutes, and I had an out of body experience. The period of time that I was gone felt like I was gone for 6 months, but it was only a few minutes. And
Wow.
so I had this whole 6 month experience of meeting, the creator. And like when I wasn't a religious person when I died, I found God in sobriety. And then about a year later, I had gotten killed, because I walked in on a home invasion. And, when I was sent back. And, ever since then, you look at things differently. you know Everything is kind of, you're like, it feels like everything's a simulation. And you can become like I can easily get wrapped up in bullshit and become unconscious and forget the memory, and be like, be arguing with people on the internet and be like, oh no, this person, I hate this band. I'm like, that's a good band. And they're like, no, that band sucks. Or it's like, I'm like, why am I arguing with strangers on the internet about,
Yeah.
what whether it's bands or politics or bullshit, whatever. Um, but the fact of the matter is like, I genuinely believe we're here to learn lessons and do jobs, right? So I like when I recall my experience of being outside of myself and understanding the secrets of the universe, I guess you could say, right? Understanding, I think that our lives are growing phases for our souls. And
I
so
love that.
everything that we go through, how we handle it, is going to determine how we level up in the spirit. And it was explained to me that altruism, doing things in the service of others and not getting anything in return, was one of the highest forms of spiritual upgrade. And so that never really left. And yeah, I don't like, so, like I never pray, like I'm like, oh man, like, I really need some money, God. I pray for things like, place me in a position so that I could share abundance with others,
It's the
right?
best.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden stuff starts happening. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
it's like learning how to manifest is. It's about clearing yourself of wrong intention and literally doing things from a pure place where you don't know if you're going to benefit or not. You don't know if it's about having a strong spiritual intuition and connection with the higher power.
I noticed that you quoted Marcus Aurelius a few times. Are you into Stoicism?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm a little more reactive than that. I think I appreciate stoicism because I haven't mastered it. So, you know,
Some things you said, it kind of was similar to what I read in the book. Actually, Chris Kale got me onto that. The obstacle is the way. So, yeah.
oh, okay. What was the quote? I think it was like the not becoming your enemy.
The obstacle is the way.
Oh,
Ryan
okay.
Holiday. Yeah. So, yeah, you said a few things and it kind of resonated with something I read there.
Yeah, I like to try to put positive messages out and do it in, I don't know. I was always into creative writing, and I've been in and I've been working on the record for the last year.
I want
So
to get into
I'm like
that.
writing lyrics, and then I'm like, this isn't gonna fit in a song. I'm like, dear diary, like I feel like this. Yeah, right. Like my phone is sitting on notebooks and you know spiritual books and recovery books. They're all stacked up because I don't have a tripod.
Oh, I wanted to get into that a little bit. So there are artists and creatives who believe that using substances, whether drugs or alcohol, it helps them, create better or perform better. And you've been on both sides. What is your experience?
Um, I feel like um, so the difference the difference between being sober and not and being an active addict, my availability to creativity is much different. Uh, in my disease, imagine you have to you okay, imagine you're in an art class and they're like, we're gonna give you a box of crayons and you gotta make a painting. You gotta make a drawing with these crayons. And you're an addict and they give you every shade of gray. It's all black and gray and it's every slightly different shade and you make a black and gray painting. And when you get sober, you get the same box of crayons. It's just there's every single color in the spectrum, right? When the lower vibrational frequency that your addiction takes you to, actually, some people, and I falsely believed I was gaining access to my creativity when the reality is I was actually limiting myself to only a lower fourth dimensional variation, um, where I could only create from pain, from anger, from rage, misery, regret, and darkness. And all of those are valid points of creation, but also there's love and joy and wisdom and discernment and fiction, storytelling, moral lessons. There's just so much more uh, on the opposite side of the spectrum. And when you're in that, when you grow up in a traumatized, like when all you know is pain, you don't even know that all that good stuff exists. You sort of look at other people living lives, and you're like, oh, it must be nice, because you don't even understand what it's like to actually even want to be alive, because you're just like, what's the point of, and that's the thing. It's like, misery and pain is, it steals from us. And it's cool because, bands and artists that express those things, they get rewarded for it, but then they stay in a loop.
That's
And
true.
we've lost, yeah, we've lost. Think about how many amazing singers and songwriters and musicians and we've lost because, the time comes and it's like, okay, it's time. Like, I think people are getting it now, right? A lot of artists now have gotten sober, but a lot of their bandmates, they died a long time ago, or they lost the fight. And so, where I understand when people make that excuse, but the thing is, when you're an addict, you'll make any excuse to keep using. And it's because in your condition, life is just unbearable. It's unbearable to you have to learn how to live life on life's terms outside after you've made yourself into a drug addict. And it's hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that's that's very interesting. I really like the analogy with the crayons.
Yeah,
Makes
it makes
sense.
sense
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, I saw in one of your posts, you said that you lost a lot of close friends and you gained new friends and you did great things with those new friends and you got healthier together, lots of good things going on for you. How important is your friend circle, especially as an artist or a creator?
um I mean, like, I don't, I, I think people, we need community, right? I don't feel like we're meant to be isolated and meant to be alone. And for me, I definitely, in 2020, there's a couple of things. When you get, again, Zombie made the band famous, the band sold millions and millions of records, and it happened overnight. And I'd been in the industry for, since 2007. So then by 2017, I was singing for Five Finger, and then Bad Wolves came out, and a lot of people I knew who didn't give me the time of day or didn't give a shit, they were all my best friends. And you don't really sift through all that stuff. And people will prioritize you if they think you're important. And I've been around so long, like I never, you know, I didn't realize. And when I had unpopular opinions and I had wrong think, I lost a lot of friends, and I learned who my real friends were. Even people who I was very very close with for years. I lost relationships of 20 years because I didn't go along with the narrative. There was a period where I was completely alone and isolated for a long time, and self pity will that's where self pity will get you. And self pity is a very very bad thing for alcoholics and drug addicts
Yeah.
or people who are addicted to food. And they say that in recovery, resentment is the number one offender, but self pity is number two. Because when you start feeling sorry for yourself, you start the process of making excuses, and then you become a victim. And I'm not very comfortable in that role. And so like a few months of that, and I was disgusted with myself. I'm like, bro, I'm not changing fundamentally who I am because a bunch of people abandoned me. I'm like, and then I started looking at it as like God is separating people away from me that are not on the same path. And I have to keep following this thread, and I have to follow through. And ultimately, you know, I mean, we'll find out what happens, right? It's like, I spent some time in the wilderness, and I think it's character building. And I also think there was a lot of time for research. It was a lot of time, I learned a lot of lessons, you know, and, and then I got back with my community, and I started getting super heavily involved in recovery. And so like the last couple of years, my life is like being in therapy, helping other people get sober, speaking at meetings. I go to drug and alcohol facilities. I go to insane asylums. I go to prisons. I go and I do panels, and I talk to people about recovery. And then, sometimes people want me to sponsor them, and then you know, so they call me and ask me for help, and all of a sudden I'm reconnected again. And now my life has purpose. And you know, being a rock star, a musician, is like, this not no one should make a sole vocation of that work, right? Nobody should be you know, uh we have this weird tendency to worship celebrities, and like it's like, dude, I don't like any of that. I've never been with any of that, and and when you see how frail and fake it is, like there are people who are I'm not going to name names, but there are actively people in the music industry, in the rock industry, who beat their wives, who are drug addicts, who have raped women, who have assaulted women, who are sex offenders against children, and the industry covers it up. And I get a lot of shit because I'm the person who's like, this is a real thing. It's still happening. It's still happening. So that's when, like, I didn't, when I was a conspiracy theorist, and I was like, this is I'm like, bro, this is a real thing. And people are like, the when you say the truth, people want to shut you down.
Yeah.
Nobody cancels a loser, and nobody cancels a liar. You never get canceled for lying, and you never get canceled because you're a loser. You only get canceled if you're a threat to people who have power and are abusing that power. And I think the world realizes that now. And that's what it comes down to. It's important to be healthy too, right? It's like you have to understand what's going on in your food. You have to understand what you don't want to be intaking carcinogen, and you don't want to be, in America they put sugar in everything.
Yeah.
You know, our bread here is poison. People are like, I'm gluten intolerant. I'm like, dude, if you go to Paris or Italy and eat the bread, you'll be fine. Every time, I lived in Australia for a little bit with my ex-girlfriend who's from there. Every time I go out there, I'm like, I lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks and I'd eat twice as much food. Same thing in Europe, same thing in Scandinavia,
Yeah.
because we don't, our FDA in America, the Food and Drug Administration takes donations from the food and drug companies. And the food companies also work with the drug companies. And the drug companies are like, we have this drug. And they're like, but nobody's sick from it. They're like, okay, we're gonna put stuff in the food that makes everybody sick, and then we're gonna sell them the drug. And like, is it a cure? Like, no, it doesn't cure you. It just makes you feel better for a little bit. So you're a customer for life. And they'll, that's the problem is anybody, like anyone who's a drug dealer, right? If you look at the ghetto and your first hit of crack is always free.
Mm.
Every good drug dealer knows this. You're like, yeah, just give them a hit of crack. Because once somebody smokes crack, that's it. That's it. Customer for life. And that's what they use. The medical industry uses the same model. We don't have enough knowledge about the past.
Oh, we don't want to, because now everything's with, like, people have such short attention spans that they will look at a short or a reel and take that as the whole picture, but no one's actually going to do research to understand, the whole story.
Well, I think that people, everybody's like, I have autism and ADHD and this, that, the other, and I'm like, look, ADHD, you probably are getting ADHD from swiping,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And then, you know, like I've been around before social media and before the internet, and what I do know is that I remember when Metaverse. So my buddy's dad builds casinos in Vegas, and I remember Metaverse was doing a thing in one of the casinos. They were like in there for a minute, and they were studying slot machine addiction
Yes,
so
I
that
read
they
that.
could, yeah, so that they could change the interface and the way that we interact with social media and dating apps and this and the other, so we become addicted to it.
Dopamine,
But
yeah.
people who are addicted to gambling and slot machines, they all have ADHD. It's brain damage. They're giving us brain damage.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. It's like, anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna move to Africa. No, it's like,
Yeah. Well,
I'm
it's just
selling
sad.
all
It's
my
like
things.
it's like everyone I know has ADHD, and I'm like, it is the fucking phone. Put it down. There are distractions everywhere. Everyone's trying to get your attention. It's just that. So it's
Yeah,
just, yeah.
it's uh, it's a terrible thing. It's again, technology is like money. It's not. It's polarized in the hands of who yields the power. Right, a sword can protect a kingdom, but it can also commit atrocities. It's just an inanimate thing. It's like whoever wields it. The advancement in technology that we have is amazing, but we've gotten to a place where we should feel the most connected because we have so much access to reaching so many people, but people have never been more isolated and lonely. And it's you know it did not have its intended purpose. It was social media and all the stuff. It became a Trojan horse because as soon as people learned that they could control people's minds, it was over. It was over. Then the battle for data, and that's why there's so much money in data farming. They want to know the patterns of how we live and behave and think across the planet so they can orchestrate mass psyops and control everybody.
Yeah.
That's why
Well,
these companies pay so much money for it.
Well, they've been using the media to do that forever, right?
The media is quite problematic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the news just, I remember being a kid and the news would just tell you what was happening. And it's up to you to decide.
If you could choose one person to train with, dead or alive, who would it
To
be and
train
why?
with?
Yeah. If you had to
Oh,
work out with
man.
someone,
Like, does it have to be like today? So it could be any time.
doesn't matter.
Mm, who would I want to train with?
And it doesn't have to be a musician, it can be anyone.
No, no, I wasn't even thinking of musicians. Who would I want to train? I was like, oh man, this is a good one because it'd be somebody you want to ask like questions to. Um, can I get like a top five?
You've got 5 names?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
immediately already.
hit me. Let's go.
Abraham Lincoln,
Wow.
right? I
It's a
got a
good
lot of
one. It's good.
questions.
It's a good one.
JFK, Martin Luther King Jr.
Mm.
Ooh, Jesus Christ
Oh,
of Nazareth,
you're not
like
the
the
first
body of
one.
Christ. The
Johnny
the first
Hawkins
one.
also chose Jesus.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well, if you had like, I'm like, yo, we got 2 hours to get this lifted. I'm like, I'm just gonna ask you all the questions. I'm like, what about this? What about that? What about this? Did it hurt when they, He's like, yeah, it hurt, dude. I go, okay, sorry. Is it true that this, Um, no, Jesus would probably be the number one person. My number
Yeah.
two would be Arnold Schwarzenegger
Yeah.
in his prime. Right. I see Arnold at the gym all the time, but I would want to train with him when he was like Terminator 2 Arnold, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. I have trained with some cool people. Like I've worked out with Jay Cutler and
I was
Flex
gonna say
Lewis. And
I saw him in some of your pictures. That's so cool.
yeah, I trained me and Josh Brolin, who played Thanos. We used to train together when he lived in Venice. And yeah, I've trained with some cool people. I've trained with Johnny Hawkins on the tour that Bad Wolves did with Nothing More. I think it was Five Finger, Breaking Benjamin, Nothing More, Bad Wolves, and
Nice.
I was spending so much money Ubering to the gym that it was literally like $70 a day to like go to the gym and come back. So I bought a whole weight set for like 2 grand, and then the whole tour, me and Johnny were like out there. Like nobody really wanted to work out, so like some of the other people's security guards would come. They'd be smoking cigarettes, lifting, and we had a whole yard. And I took that on the Papa Roach tour too, because it's easier to
Nice.
just work out at the venue. It was much less stressful. So I've worked out with Jacoby. I've worked out with Phil Labonte from All That Remains.
Yeah, we've had him here
Me and
also.
he was on.
Johnny as well. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and then like me and Zoltan worked out every single day for like 10 months. Like we were training together, and then I'm
I
trying
need
to think who
him.
else. Yeah, I'll get him. I'll text him if you want to get him on the show. But yeah,
Been on my
I
list. Yeah.
I think it's like a bro thing too. Like it's I've worked out with Tim Lambesis and Craig, and it's just fun, man. It's
Yeah.
like when I was in Bad Wolves, I was the only fit person, and then when I went out on the Tommy Vext tour, my whole band worked out. So it was like Kevin Creekman and Mike Levine and Dusty, and so we would literally be like, all right, like the Uber's coming, and like five guys would pile in the van, and we go work out for 2 hours, eat, and honestly, like you become friends like that. It's very hard. Even though my band was popular and we were playing arenas, and it's like I, it's hard till you go backstage and everyone's doing coke and drinking, and then you're like, you go on the bus and people are drinking, and you're like, eventually, there was like, the drugs and alcohol caused fist fights, and
Yeah.
people have like we had to make rules that there was no alcohol and no drugs on the bus anymore. and that people had to sign contracts, and it's just completely different frequencies, and I'm like, I don't want to do this, and I don't, and then people like, fuck that guy, like, ugh. Yeah,
There's
which is like me.
a lot of jack musicians now. I can't even keep
Yeah,
up with the
it's
interviews. There's so many now.
but that's good.
It's a good
'Cause
thing.
people want to be healthy. Look, like Ronnie Rack, he got in great shape over the last, like he got pretty fit about, I want to say like 10 years ago. I used to see him at the gym in Vegas, and this, even the dude, like, I'm trying to think of bands, like, it's like everybody works out. Like the guys in Bury Your Dead work out, the guys in Amir work out, the Event Sevenfold guys started working out long long ago. you know. And then when I was singing for Five Finger Death Punch, like we would all go, like me and Chris would go to the gym, me and Jeremy would work out, me and Zoltan would, like, everybody would work out,
Yeah,
and it's just like you know, it's a better way to live.
it's a better environment as well. Yeah, there's a lot of bands, a lot of artists I speak to, and they're like the whole band together. Like they have these no alcohol policies, and they all work out and they try to eat healthy, and they share like protein shakes and stuff. So it's really cool.
That's my new band is like that. So
I
it's
want to talk
been
about that, okay? Because we finished with all the questions, so I know there's a new and exciting stuff coming out. Is there anything you want to share with us?
yeah, I mean, I have a new band. So Chris Kane, the original guitar player of Bad Wolves, we reunited last year and started working on a record together. And yeah, we held auditions, and a lot of people tried out, and it was very difficult because there was so many fucking great artists. But we wound up putting this band together, and we're gonna be probably in a month from now announcing the name, and we might even be dropping a song. But we signed with Old Bull Management, which is Mike Brown. Everyone calls Mike Cheese. He used to manage Chester Bennington, Slash, Rage Against the Machine, Sublime. He
Nice.
manages the Dirty Heads. Um, yeah, and so we're back at it. And so right now they're shopping the record to several labels, and they're talking about it. And I thought we would not be going on tour till September, but they're talking about summer.
Oh
We'll be jumping
yeah.
on. Yeah, we'll probably be jumping on a tour by summer. And yeah, I'm excited. Like I really love the record, and it's a more mature version of where Chris and I left off from Bad Wolves. We brought Angel Vivaldi into the band recently, so he's going to be playing lead guitar. Angel is like a world renowned progressive shredding metal guitar player. Like, and we've been friends for over 20 years. We used to be in a band. We were in a rock band together in New York for like 9 months back in like 2012. And and yeah, he's just like incredible, And so like I feel very grateful. Uh, the bass player is also, he's a bass player and a singer. He comes from some yeah. But when people will be like, "Holy shit," and then the same thing with the drummer, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you guys did a super group," like, yeah. And
Oh,
so
very excited.
it's gonna yeah, it's gonna be exciting, and I'm just looking forward to going back on stage and jamming and doing the thing and making music and meeting with the fans. And we have very strong songs, and it's been really it's it's been emotional. It's been an emotional roller coaster putting a record together again. And I kind of was like, there was a period of time like a year or two ago where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do this anymore, and I was like gonna sell my publishing and sell my masters and just be like done with the industry. But that's usually what happens when you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go, maybe I'm gonna go open a rehab somewhere and help people get sober, and then the phone starts ringing. People are like, hey man, like, hey, do you want to do this or do you want? I'm like, not really, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's
Well,
like, yeah, but it would be great, I'm like, oh, okay.
I think, I mean, you've got a platform to actually make a difference. You posted something from Marilyn Manson, and he something you said about what was it? He was talking about music and how much of an impact that has on people. And
Mm.
yeah, on that platform, you do have like a very emotional connection with people.
Well, I mean, I'm grateful, you know. Yeah, and I think Manson, uh, he's 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 been throughout the course of his career. He's always had these like really brilliant nuggets, you know. I think he's a very intelligent, well thought out guy. And I'm glad that he's doing so well. Like he got, you know, he's sober now a long time, and his career is back, and he's been exonerated of all the bullshit that got thrown at him, and that was kind of hard to watch too, because like I was like, bro, this is like crazy, and all of his friends and all the people who know him, and like even his ex girlfriends were like, bro, this is bullshit, and so I'm glad that the public knows that now. But you know, that's the power. That's false accusations used to like be like, oh, you know, we used to live in a world where you were innocent until proven guilty, and now it's the opposite,
Yeah,
you know. And but yeah, the strength of music and the connection of truth in music, that's why he survived. And that's why I survived. You know, you can't really you know, I spent a lot of time. I think that also because I have to give credit to my sponsor in recovery, because when Bad was blowing up, I was uncomfortable, and so I didn't know what to do. So I would go in the crowd, and my sponsor was like, "Go be of service to people," and I'm like, "What am I gonna do?" They're like, "Just listen to them." So I would go to the merch stands. We'd be playing arenas. We had the number one song in the world, and I would just walk through the crowd, and people would follow me, and I'd stand at the merch booth. I'd take pictures with people and their kids, and you know, I because of songs like "Sober" and "Remember When" and the I poured my heart out of my personal life experiences, and I'd made a decision to make those things public. What I found was so many people had the same story,
it
and
resonates.
it
Yeah,
would just be wave after people, and they would and they were definitely people trauma dump on me, but it doesn't feel like it, because for me, um they made me feel not alone anymore. And all of a sudden, like, my story is not unique. Like, all the things I've been through is not like I'm the only one like this. Um, because it's easy to feel like that when you get a little success, and you live in a nice neighborhood, and the people are like, I don't, like you feel like nobody understands. And I tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, like over the course of years of touring and just going out and giving my time, helped me heal. And so in a way, like, it's like, I could be like, oh man, these guys are doing drugs and it sucks. But it's like, if that didn't happen, it wouldn't have forced me to go
yeah,
participate, And sometimes things are bad, and sometimes things just are, and it's, again, it's like what I was talking about in this life, things happen, and spiritually, how we level up is what we do with the things that happen. And it's like, did it happen to me, or did it happen for me,
yeah.
so that this pathway can open up?
Love that.
Yeah.
That is so true. Yeah. Well, we want you to keep doing the good work. How do we best support you?
Oh, well, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. And um, if you go to TommyVextOfficial.com, all of my streaming platforms are there. Please subscribe. I'm not really good at pushing that stuff. I have more listeners than I do subscribers, because I'm like, I'm not an influencer, I'm a singer. I don't know how to sell stuff. But yeah, so like it's like management's like, bro, you have all these listeners, and like you got to get people to subscribe better. I'm like, I don't know. I just make music, dude. Like, that's the thing about the industry, is like, they're like, you can't just be an artist. You got to also be like a PR person
It's
and a social media
anything.
influencer and a salesman. And
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, you got to have constant stuff, constant content. I'm like,
It's
Uh,
yeah. I have the same as a fitness coach. I have to be a marketer as well, and it's just everything basically. It's just not just good at your craft, but everything. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's because there's so much competition for attention. I don't know. I think social media might stop. I think it might be either everyone's going to migrate somewhere else, or I think it might full stop in the next 10, 20 years. I don't think it's going to last. It's having too much of a negative effect on people.
well, I don't like it.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
peaked in 2019. 2019, social media was lit. Like everyone was like, look, here's what I'm eating. And like, I'm doing this. You know, there was no like psyop going on. It was just like, and also too, when I would go on social media, I would only see my friends because that's who I followed. And
yeah.
now it's like I open my social media and it's like, do you feel like it's like watching infomercials at
I
2 in
was
the
gonna
morning.
say ads. Yeah, it's just constant.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
go to bed at night and wake up in the morning? Yeah. Like, do you love your family? Like, yeah. Like, well, maybe you're depressed. I'm like, try Billify. Like, I'm like, bro, this is Instagram. I don't want to see this shit,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's awful. It's
And
awful.
they get regular people. Like now, they just hire regular folks. And like today, I went over here and da da da. Come with me while I do this. And then you realize it's like, buy Coca Cola. I'm like, bro, what? I don't want like
Yeah.
we got social media became popular because people were sick and tired of cable television's advertisements. And now they're
Yeah.
like, here you
It's
go. Same thing
everywhere.
with Netflix and
Yeah.
you know, Netflix. Everyone's like, yeah. People are like, we don't want to see ads anymore. Stop selling us bullshit. We're gonna go over here. And then everyone goes over there, and they're like, in a few years, we will begin selling ads again. You're like, bro, just stop with the
Wait for
fucking
it.
ads. Yeah, just stop with
Oh,
the
oh,
ads, man.
it's
Everything
awful.
gets
Yeah.
ruined. It's
That's
just
so
like
true.
just leave every. If Instagram went back to 2019, everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like just go in there and make it back the way that it was,
It's authentic,
and
right?
then everyone will like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
people used to make money on it. You know, you'd be like, hey, I use this. I'm like, hey, I use this product. If you like it, you can try it. If not, I don't give a fuck. And then people
Yeah.
are like, I fuck with that guy.
Yeah.
I'll buy it. Like, yeah, I've done that because I don't want to be sold to. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what's? I'm like, oh, what's Nick doing? He's like, oh, that's new protein powder. I'm like, I'm gonna have to order that.
Yeah. It's
Let it
awful.
just let it happen organically. You know,
Yeah, I agree. Let's see where we go with social media. But yeah, well, I'm stoked for you and all the new stuff that's coming out. I hope you're gonna come to Europe
I hope so
sometime.
too. I want to. I
Yeah.
miss it. I haven't. I went out. I haven't been over there since the El Nino tour. So I'm ready to
Cool.
go. We're gonna be
Awesome.
doing. You know, me like bad because Bad Wolves they broke up. Um, we're gonna be playing the songs on tour. So when we go out, we're gonna drop this record, and we're probably gonna be supporting. And then I want to do a bunch of headlining runs. But I wrote all those songs. It's part of me and Chris's life and our history, and like fans want to hear them. And the songs are about my life.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to like going out and being able to play for an hour and 15 minutes off the bat. And just having a good time.
Yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait. Well, thank you so much. This was friggin' awesome. It was long, but
Thank you.
I
Thanks
had
for
fun.
having me.
Lots of fun. Very nice.